The most common reason is the fear of burdening others. Nobody wants to burden another person with their own problems and challenges because the other person may already have it.
Okay, let's go.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to Coaching to Change. Thank you for, today's episode. It's going to be something that's very sentimental to myself, very important and critical. The title is Suffering in Silence. So if that is something that intrigues you, stay with me. But before we start, if you do not already follow me, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do that. I provide new topics every week, and it all relates to mental health challenges. So I also have an Instagram page, Dr. Aaron P. Bryant. There are daily quotes of inspiration and guidances, things that will probably relate to you. I've had people message me and say, "Thank you so much for that. I feel like it speaks to me, and that really makes me smile because I feel like the work that my team and myself do is definitely getting through to a lot of different people. So this is very appreciative of those people that have already subscribed, and if you haven't, please do so. We put in a lot of work and research to help anyone who is listening, to include my clients, and any support you can provide, that will be appreciated just by subscribing to our channels. But on that note, I want to start with a little personal story about myself. Um, I served in the United States Army as an airborne ranger. It's a special ops unit, and that particular unit is designed to, we're supposed to be the best at what we do in infiltration, runway protection, close quarters combat, just to name a few of the things that we train in. The intensity of what we do, the violence we see in combat, the levels of responsibilities and expectations, it's what we endure. It's what we're trained to do, what we're expected to perform, without question. Now, I say all this to give you a bit of an insight that if a normal person leaves home to endure the type of training that we endured, and you come out having to face an enemy combatant, when it's all said and done, who is on the other side when all the noise is no longer there? In our fast-paced world, it's not uncommon to encounter people battling personal struggles. Yet that person who's battling that personal struggle also chooses to suffer in silence. These individuals internalize their trauma, often refraining from seeking help, believing that you should not burden others with their problems, and the question is, what compels them? What compels them to do this? How does this silence impact their emotional and mental well-being? How can those around them support and encourage them to share their feelings? This is going to be an emotional show for me, but I'm going to get through it. So the question is, why do these people want to suffer in silence? That's the question. So many individuals who internalize trauma, they'll do this for a variety of reasons. Which it could be deeply rooted in their cultural background, it could be a social environment, or it might just be their personal history. So we're going to discuss why these people choose to do that, because it is something that's important. And the most common reason is the fear of burdening others. Nobody wants to burden another person with their own problems and challenges because the other person may already have it. One of the most prominent reasons individuals refraining from speaking about their struggles is the worry of, bothering a loved one with, with your issues. They may believe that sharing their problems will overwhelm the other person, or their issues do not warrant attention, or nobody will actually understand. This mindset often stems from a desire to maintain harmony and avoid causing discomfort to others. So here, for example, highly empathetic people will absorb their emotions. They don't want to bother another person. So when distressed, they may think everyone is going through this something. Why should I add to their worries? And that's very common thinking. And this thought pattern is going to perpetuate their silence, leaving them to have to deal with it on their own. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. Um, what about a cultural or society expectation? Sometimes emotional expression is perceived as a sign of weakness, especially if if we're going to talk about gender, men. The expectation to be strong and stoic, keep it together, often results in suppressing emotions and it avoids vulnerability. I talked about, it was very deliberate that I talked about my military past because I want to reference the fact that when you come out of the military and especially when you're an airborne ranger and somebody who's achieved and done things at a level that most will don't even understand or can fathom, there's this level of, again, expectation of being strong. In such environments, people may grow up believing that speaking about trauma or, it's, seeking help is like a sign of failure. These cultural norms can create a significant barrier to emotional openness. I know in the military, when you're hurt, you don't even say anything. You don't speak up. I have to this day all kinds of injuries, specifically in my feet, based on. I mean, I've had 3 surgeries because of the fact that I would not go to sick call when I had issues with my heels and my feet. So I get it personally. Fostering the idea of personal struggles, you deal with it independently and it just reinforce the pattern of internalizing the emotions rather than seeking help. But, you know, who am I? Who am I to, say? I just know this firsthand. But the concern here and why we're talking about it on the show is the mental health part. The stigma surrounding mental health is another major contributor to why people suffer in silence. Despite increasing awareness, many individuals still fear being judged or labeled as weak or unstable, because you have to admit your struggles. Who wants to do that? Who wants to be identified like that? This fear can be particularly acute in professional settings where mental health issues not even is probably looked at as a liability. This day and age is getting better, but I mean, think about it 10 years ago. People who have experienced trauma may feel that admitting they are struggling, that's going to lead to like alienation, even possibly discrimination. So they choose to remain silent. They're going to protect themselves. And these are just going to be judgments of negativity. I know that, you know, I was thinking when I left the military, I had no idea what this word was, this term mental health. That wasn't even something I even understood or thought about. So I had no visibility into this. So it was difficult for me to express my emotions. Some people may genuinely find it difficult to put their emotions into words. This inability, to articulate feelings can result in a person withdrawing. And when you withdraw, again, you're keeping it to yourself and you're bottling up all those emotions. And I've had shows about physical abuse. I've had shows about substance abuse. This is what's going to could possibly become the repercussion from that, bottling it all up. It's often seen in individuals who have experienced long-term trauma, particularly during childhood, where they learn to cope by shutting down emotionally. So people in this category may not fully understand what they're even going through, making it even more challenging to ask for help or even to, feel comfortable to confide into another person. The impact of, you know, when you do that is keeping it all in. You've heard that term, don't keep it all in. Well, when you're suffering in silence, it may seem like a way to protect yourself, but again, it's going to be detrimental. So, because it's unresolved. The trauma is unresolved and can have a, this emotional and psychological impact to one person, and it manifests in other ways. And that could be where we start to see a change of quality of life. Internalizing trauma is never a good thing. The deterioration of it is going to break down your mental health. Suppressing the emotions can lead to conditions of depression, anxiety, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Over time, then I did a show on bulimia and anorexia. Well, guess what? Weight could be a factor. So you know the unexpressed emotions going to build up, leading to all the overwhelming hopelessness and disparities. Individuals who suffer in silence, they're going to have this chronic level of stress, and that's just only going to further exacerbate the mental health issues. It's going to further, you're going to manifest physically through symptoms like headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, even heart problems. And then let's not even talk about the strained relationships that's going to happen, because if you're internalizing everything, that's going to put a strain. Family members, friends, they're going to feel shut out. They're going to feel hopeless when they're going to notice something wrong, but they can't offer any support because you're withdrawing and you're finding yourself isolated. And over time, that emotional distance is going to create a silence, and nobody's going to understand what's going on. It's going to lead to misunderstanding. It's going to lead to resentment. It's going to break down communication. Moreover, that person suffering, well, you know, they're gonna avoid confronting their emotions. Isolation can create a vicious cycle. The loneliness often worsens the mental health issues, and the irony of it is that it's going to lead to more withdrawal. And I'm preaching to the choir because I do it. I do it. I understand. I absolutely understand, and yet I still do it. I'm actually literally, a master coach and recognizing all of this and helping other people. But then I turn around and a lot of this stuff I do myself. Internalizing trauma, it's going to affect your ability to focus, make decisions. That's where how it's going to impact your productivity. You can't really be efficient in what you're doing. You're emotionally overwhelmed. The brain starts to become consumed by all these unresolved emotions that you're trying to suppress. You can't perform at work, can't perform at school. You're feeling inadequate. You're blaming yourself. Extreme cases, you may find it difficult to work. You can't meet your academic goals, and you're further contributing to feeling worthless and despair, which takes you down a path towards depression. Then you're dealing with self-destructive behaviors. So you're left to not deal with long periods of when you're an individual of of coping. So what do to cope? Well, substance abuse, reckless behavior, self harm, disordered eating. I get it. I get it. These behaviors often, they offer temporary relief, from the pain, the emotional pain, but ultimately, you exacerbate the problem. You're just leading to further psychological and physical harm to yourself. So we have to figure out a way to reach out. We have to. How do we get past this? You realize that a loved one is having difficulties, and they choose to remain silent. And I know it's heartbreaking for somebody to watch that on another person. So what can you do? Because there are steps to support and encourage them. But you got to be careful because sometimes it's difficult, especially if they're a veteran. Create a safe and a non-judgmental space is always a good thing. Let them see that. One of the most important things you could do is, by creating that space, it gives them a sense of knowing that they're able to communicate when they're ready. Let them know that you're there for them. They can talk to you without fear, without judgment, without criticism. Be present. Listen when they're offering, without offering, unsolicited advice. That can make a difference. You encourage the communication, by speaking general, invasive, questions, but avoid pushing them to share when they're not even ready to share. That level of understanding, that level of empathy goes a long way when somebody is suffering in silence. You recognize that their feelings are valid. You tell them that they are acceptable. You know, to not be okay. Avoid saying things like, "Oh, well, cheer up. It's not that bad." You don't go there. That's just minimizing their experience, and that's going to totally take things in the wrong direction because it's going to make them feel like they're not understood. So try saying something else. Say something different. Like, I can see you're going through a tough time and I'm here to for you whenever you're ready to talk. Or, again, that ties into that space that you're giving them and knowing that you're available to them. You're encouraged. And then when you get to that dialogue, when the dialogue is going, then you encourage them to seek professional help. While being there is important, it's equally important to encourage them to seek help. Counselors, therapists, coaches, support groups offer the tools and the guidance. Offer, needed, help them process the trauma so they can begin healing. Offer to help them find the resource that's available. I'm right here. You know, go with them to their first appointment if they're hesitant. It's essential to respect their boundaries. It's essential to let them take the necessary steps. If they're not ready to seek help, continue offering emotional support while gently reminding them of the benefits of assistance. Because you got to be patient. You got to be patient. Persistent, but patient. Because you don't want them to continue suffering in silence. So it's going to take some time and it's going to allow them to feel comfortable enough to open up. And that's okay. So you do some checkups regularly. Just, offer support, remind them that you care. Simply knowing that someone is there can make a big impact. That what gets me through. Knowing that I have a stable home, knowing that I have, my surrounding is a level of stability that allows me to get through when I end up going through my roller coaster. And that's part of the healing journey. When you're helping that person, you're being persistent but not overbearing in your efforts. Let them set the pace, reassure them, let them know that you're willing to be there. You're going to walk next to them, walk alongside them, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. You're going to be there. You're going to help them. But I will say this, and this is, I applaud one of my clients, the mother, because I applaud her because she has taken it upon herself to educate herself. She has been working with me to understand more about trauma. So that's important. So educating yourself was going to give you a head start in this because you'll understand how it affects people. So you can be more effective in being a support system. So the more you understand what they're going through, the better equipped you're going to offer, meaningful assistance. You're going to stay informed. You're going to also, you be able to understand the stigmas and challenge those stigmas. Be able to block out the misconceptions and preventing them from, you want to be able to understand what is relevant and not relevant. Helping somebody break that silence and keeping them from suffering in silence is huge because it's a painful, it's isolating experience that's going to affect a lot of different people, but it doesn't have to be permanent. Understanding why people internalize their trauma, recognizing the impact it has on their mental health and relationships, take the time out with empathy and support because we can definitely break this. If you know somebody that's struggling, just remember that asking to help demonstrates strength, not weakness. Together, create a world that people can feel safe speaking up. You know, communication is so powerful in so many different aspects of relationships and friendships. And this is one of those cases where when somebody who is suffering in silence, they're choosing not to communicate for their own reasons, a reason that's important to them, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's right, or because they may not even understand what to do. So, fostering open dialogue and removing the stigma surrounding mental health, because people feel, oh, it's a mental health thing, and they feel like they can't achieve or they can't work with that. That's not true. We can offer help to those suffering in silence and remind them they're not alone. And because this ties into mental health, does not mean you are not recoverable. This is not a permanent situation. So, I hope this was valuable. I hope I wasn't too clinical. I really tried not. I try to deliver something that, that is understandable. Somebody that is even in their teens can understand. I choose this field as a motivational factor because I believe everybody has the ability to improve their life. And I have worked for many years in helping people in this area and come up with a method that gives people the ability to take ownership of themselves. So if you're interested in that, please reach out. I will show you how that works, because I can help you understand and find these tools that's going to improve yourself. I can help you maintain the knowledge so you can use them every day. I can help you help others who may need your assistance. So if you're interested in being a coach, I can help you get there. I can get you certified, allow you to become a coach, or you just use the tools for yourself. That is what I do. This is who I am. So, who am I? Oh, well, my name is Dr. Aaron P. Bryant. I am your host of Coaching the Change. And, you know, I say this after every show, and I mean it with all the sincerity. If you're alone, sad, worried, depressed, or you're feeling like you're losing control, just remember someone is always listening, and that someone is not just me. So, thank you for listening. I hope to be back soon. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll talk again, God willing.